Now, the next subject we need to cover is special use airspace. So the next subject I want to cover with you is something called special use airspace. This is areas of operations and with the designation in which certain activities must be confined or where limitations may be imposed on aircraft operations that are not part of these activities. Primary special use airspaces are prohibited areas, restricted areas, warning areas, military operation areas, MOAs, alert areas, and controlled firing areas. Now, prohibited areas contain airspace defined by dimensions which you find on your sectional chart in which the aircraft is prohibited. Such areas are established for security or other reasons associated with national welfare. You cannot get permission to fly there. Now, on the map, prohibited areas are marked by a blue hash mark with the name P and then 3 or 4 digits after that. Flights in this area are strictly forbidden. So examples would be the White House, nuclear power plants, sub bases, Camp David, all those places where for national security, they're not going to allow drone or aircraft flight in that area. So an example is P40, which is around Camp David. So we see the blue hash marks, and then we see the P40. So the P is the designation will tell you you cannot fly in that area. Flight is prohibited. So a little less restrictive are restricted areas. Restricted areas are areas where the operations are hazardous to non-participating aircraft and contain airspace within which the flight of aircraft is subject to restrictions. So on a map, you will see a area outlined in blue hash marks. Restricted airspace, blue hash marks with the name R and 3 or 4 digits. The pilot in command must find out if it's hot or cold. And you find that usually from the military station that controls that space. If hot, you will not get permission. If cold, you may get permission. Well, how do you find information for this? Well, if you have your sectional chart, around the circumference of the chart are a number of tables with information. One of those tables gives information on all the other airspace and who to contact, what are the hours of operation, and that kind of information. So here is a map with an area of restricted airspace. You will find that there's an R in that area. The next type of airspace is called a warning area. They're similar in nature to restricted areas. However, the United States government does not have sole jurisdiction over the airspace. Usually it is joint between the FAA and the military. A warning area is an airspace containing activity that may be hazardous to non-participating aircraft. The airspace is designated with a W followed by 3 or 4-digit numbers. So here's an example of a warning area, and it's off the coast. Why is it a warning area? Because there is no radar coverage of that area, and therefore there is no air traffic control monitoring or controlling that area. So you're on your own due to lack of radar coverage. Another airspace is called MOAs, or Military Operations Area, with a magenta hash mark. Yes, you can fly in that area, but the FAA asked the PIC to exercise extreme caution. It usually contains military aircraft flying fast and low. So if you look at the MOA, the blue arrow and the purple arrow point to MOA areas on the sectional chart and are not numbered. Another special use airspace is called an alert area. An alert area advises the PIC of something unusual happening in this area and to exercise caution. You may fly in this area. Alert areas are depicted on aeronautical charts with an A followed by numbering pilots of areas that may contain a high volume of pilot training or an unusual type of aerial activities. Pilots should exercise caution in alert areas. So one of the ways that you might see an alert area, you see right above the cyan box, it says A to 11, but the cyan box gives you the specific details on why an alert area. The last one is controlled firing areas. CFAs contain activities that could be hazardous to non-participating aircraft.